What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on the channel. We are today going to be doing a quick little news and notes segment, and then we'll be hopping straight into an Aston Villa preview. And then we're going to take a look at some of the players that I think will be starting that game, a little bit of analysis of Aston Villa, just some very light analysis. And then post-game, after the game on Sunday, we'll do a post-game reaction and film breakdown of that. But today, let's start out with our little news and notes segment. So we don't have a ton of news and notes really to speak of at this moment, but one big thing that did happen this week, that is the official signing or rehiring of Fabio Paratici, who will now be joining Johan Lange as the second sporting director. So essentially, they will both be sporting directors at the club, and they will be kind of divvying up their roles into more specialized departments. So that's a big thing that's been happening since this restructure with Vinay and the Lewises taking over. There's been a lot of emphasis on departments having specialists in their roles to get the most out of, the club. And that's, a very big business kind of thing these days, is to have a lot of people doing a lot of different things that they specialize in. And so what that means for Tottenham is, I think, overall a good thing, because if we just read this kind of tweet here, we have Johan Lange is going to step more into the academy, scouting, performance analysis, and football insight side of things. And on the video that Tottenham released, they said that he technically got a promotion. So, I don't know, take that for what you will. But basically, he'll be kind of in charge of more of the direction of the club stuff, it sounds like, whereas Fabio Paratici will be involved more with the transfer windows, negotiating for loans and players, and kind of doing that more of that stuff that, obviously will go on between the transfer windows, but very heavily during the transfer window, which I think is perfect, because I think that really emphasizes both of their skill sets really well. One thing that we've noticed Johan Lange has been able to do in his time at Tottenham is identify young talents really well. I mean, we've signed the likes of Bergvall, we've signed the likes of Archie Gray, we've signed, a couple other handful of players. Odegaard's kind of yet to work out, but, players like that where they've kind of come out of left field a little bit for us. We weren't really rumored for them, but good scouting and good eye to see a deal or a good player. And that's something that Johan Lange has been strong at, but not very good at the actual, negotiation side of what it takes to be the sporting director. And so that's something that, Fabio Paratici seemingly is very good at. That's something, we've seen him with some of those biggest windows we've had in the past couple of years, signing the likes of Decky, signing the likes of Van de Ven, Christian Romero. Obviously, Fabio Paratici coming from Juve has a very strong influence with the Serie A, so getting a lot of players from the Serie A, a combination of players who have underdeveloped or, kind of have been given a pathway that has been blocked, or, just signing good young talents. So overall, I think it's a great thing for the club to have him step into this role. Johan Lange takes a slightly different role because I think that's going to get the best out of that whole transfers and player scouting and analysis department. So for me, good news. Okay, let's just hop right into our Aston Villa chat now, because really that was kind of the biggest news of the window, or of the last week or so. Obviously, we had the international break. We had a lot of players get a decent chunk of minutes. So actually, let's go check out that just a little bit. Oops, not reload. We want to duplicate that and move over to Tottenham and check out some of the players that got minutes. So we had a handful of, most of our players actually, our starters, and even some of our kind of depth and squad pieces, all got minutes. So actually, this is one thing that I did want to point out. Somebody on international break who did get minutes and unfortunately suffered another, looks to be a pretty bad injury, is Yves Bissouma, who was just kind of making his way back. It looked like maybe after this international break, he was going to be back to playing some minutes for Tottenham at least. But on international break with Mali, he came on, only played a few minutes. Actually, officially, what was it? They said played 6 minutes, and then just ended up getting it was there was contact on it, but it almost seems like a little bit of a non-contact injury as well. He had to be stretchered off. It doesn't look great. It's another knee injury, I believe. Um, so yeah, a bummer for Eves because, obviously he's not going to be playing a huge role for the future of the club, but he was definitely going to play some role for us throughout the rest of the season. But now it seems like not quite sure what form that's going to take. If I don't know if we'll ever see him again. I don't know how serious. They haven't really announced how serious the injury is yet, but anyways, the rest of the players we had, Lucas played a big chunk of minutes for Sweden. He played most of the first game and then played the first half of the second game. Pop played, I think, close to 290s. Kudus played close to 290s, and congratulations to Ghana. They qualified for the World Cup after missing out on AFCON, so that's great. Richie played a good chunk in their first game and then didn't play, but I think only 15 minutes in their second game against Japan for Brazil. Matisse Tell and Wilson Odebear, both for the U21s, played 290s. Wilson Odebear got 2 braces, I believe, and Matisse Tell got a goal in both games, I believe. So really, like, the one player is Rodrigo, who didn't really play a ton on international break. The rest of our guys that are, traditionally international players played at least a few minutes. So that leads us to the Aston Villa game. Let's start out with who I think will be playing the match. I'm going to kind of take this in a different route than I was anticipating, just because I think it'll flow a little bit better. So who do I think will start in the match? Well, because of the amount of time that players played, Spence got his first start for England and played a decent chunk. I actually don't remember if Udogie even went on international break with Italy or not. Let's check that out real quick. Destiny Udogie. Recent matches. Oh, he did. He didn't play any minutes in either one of them. So that's why I couldn't remember. I do think because of that, the limited minutes, he will be starting against Aston Villa. I think Mickey Van de Ven will be starting. I think Christian Romero will be starting. I think Pedro Porro, who did get some minutes with Spain, will be starting. He pulled off a Sofa score 9.7 in one of the matches I saw floating around Twitter. I didn't get to watch any of it, but it's so funny that Pedro Porro, like, for a long time, kind of getting pushed out of the Spain squad because he wasn't like the type of fullback that they wanted, supposedly, is just killing it. So that's great to see for Pedro. João Paulinho played a few minutes, and I expect him to be playing in this one because of that. I do think that because he only played a few minutes, he'll be in this one. And I do think because Roddy didn't play very many minutes at all, I do think we'll see Rodrigo Bentancur start in this one, in this, kind of double pivot that we've been seeing a lot of for Tottenham, which could, often change into a single pivot with this player moving up this way. And I do think it will be Javi starting on in the number 10, whether that takes this form or whether it takes this form. I think he'll be the one starting. And then I don't think Brennan will be playing, even though he did get some minutes with Wales on the international break. And even though he played 290s, I do think Wilson's going to start this one. The reason why I think that is because he's in really good form. I think Thomas Frank will see that and want to keep growing his confidence. And Wilson just makes a lot more sense with playing against Aston Villa, who tend to give teams possession. I think we will have the majority of the possession, and maybe by a good margin in this one. So I think that Wilson will be playing. I don't think Richie will be playing, but because he is just coming from Japan, and I think that Thomas Frank will want to play him in the midweek Champions League match against Monaco. And so again, a player who was in good form on their international break, albeit, with the U21s, but confidence is confidence, right? If you're scoring goals as a striker, as a forward, you're going to be gaining confidence. So I think Matisse Tell will start again up top, because really those are our only two options. It's either Richie or Matisse Tell at this point with injuries. And then the right wing's a tricky one because I really think that Kudus needs a rest. He's played so many minutes. He's played almost all available minutes up to this point for club and country. But with the matchup that we'll be having, I don't necessarily see Brennan Johnson playing a better role in that one. Like this, I think the role against a team that's going to allow you to have possession isn't necessarily Brennan's best. Isn't the best player for that. And also he did play a decent amount on international break. I don't know. This one's a tough one for me to really nail down what I think Thomas Frank will be doing, but I do think it will end up being Kudus because of that. But because of the game that we have midweek against Monaco. Now, Monaco I haven't watched any of, so, like tactics-wise, maybe it does make more sense to play Brendan in that one. But I do think that, there's a strong chance that Thomas Frank will want to play Mohamed Kudus in the bigger match. So this right wing position is really the biggest toss-up for me. Now, Thomas Frank's played Mohamed Kudus at right wing basically every game except for the Doncaster one. Brennan started there. Brennan started off the left occasionally, but Mohamed Kudus is basically locked down that right wing spot, and we know how much he contributes to the team. So I think this is probably the lineup we'll be seeing from Thomas Frank and Tottenham on Sunday. Now, with Aston Villa, I don't know if these players will... Yep, these players are definitely not coming in as the correct players. And I don't really feel like I want to spend the time to bring in the other players. So what Aston Villa tends to do is they play this 4-4-2, which does kind of look like a 4-2-3-1 at points. Sometimes it can kind of rotate in like this. Obviously, it won't be Ross Barkley, but it'll be like that. But definitely in possession, it tends to be, in defense, it tends to be a 4-4-2, and then possession, it tends to be either 4-2-3-1, or sometimes it even kind of is this 4-2-2-2 kind of thing with these cams kind of drifting in and out like this, and these two defensive midfielders kind of sitting back more. And something that we're going to look at here in just a second from Aston Villa's previous game will kind of give us an idea of how they play in that, and on what they're able to do playing in that formation with their defensive midfielders sitting back. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so something I wanted to look at from the previous match, which was a 2-1 win against Burnley, is the way that their defensive midfielders and their attackers kind of line up. So you can see here we have Boubacar Kamara is on the ball here. And I just wanted to illustrate how good of a ball this is. So we can see here, he's going to play this brilliant... Oh, where's my... There we go. He's going to play this brilliant ball in through here, beating... it's partially on Burnley for having this much space available in the middle. You have just a giant chunk of space there available. But regardless, a great ball from Kamara in through to Daniel Malen. And then Daniel Malen does a really good job because he takes a couple dribbles and then he's being closed down by this defender. You can see this defender is right on his shoulder. However, that doesn't really deter him because he's still able to kind of hold off the defender with his strength and his pace against him to the situation where he's still able to get the shot off as he's kind of falling down, and he gets the shot off past the keeper, going far post. And so Daniel Malen is one of the players that I definitely think that we need to be looking out for during the game. So that's, if we go back to our notes here, kind of summarizing Aston Villa, Daniel Malen is the main guy at the moment. Most of their goals he's directly involved in. Good pace, good shot, decent dribbler, and good off-ball movement. Now, if we back up just a little bit and kind of go over some of these notes before we go back to some more screenshots. Aston Villa is a tricky team because Aston Villa, to start the season, was absolutely dreadful. And we're going to take a look at that in a second. But they were 18th after the first international break. And then even after a few more games, I think they're still not in the best position. But to their credit, they have reeled off 4 straight wins, as you can see here in the form guide there. 4 straight wins, 2 of them in the Premier League against Burnley and Fulham. So 2, not the best opposition, but 2 wins nonetheless. And then 2 wins in the Europa League against Feyenoord and then also against Bologna. But as you can see here, their start of the season was not good. A draw against Newcastle, a loss to Brentford, a loss to Crystal Palace, where they got absolutely destroyed. Everton a draw, Brentford a draw in the Cup, and then a draw to Sunderland. And so it took them in the league. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games before they even scored their first goal. And that was kind of the story of Aston Villa. If you watched my Premier League preview that I did after the transfer window closed, at that point they still hadn't scored a goal, and they had only picked up 1 point at that point. And Aston Villa just looked like they were playing way too defensive, like they were being way too conservative. And then they went out and in that Crystal Palace match, they started in a very traditional like 4-2-3-1 with 4 attackers and got blown out of the park 3-0. So Aston Villa has been a tricky one to kind of figure out because traditionally, obviously, they've been a really good team against Emery the last couple of years. They've even had our number a little bit here. It's been a kind of a 50-50 thing over the last couple of years with Villa against us. But it seems like they have pulled things together a little bit now, similarly to how I cautioned against the West Ham match where they had, had a great win against Forest. I still didn't think that really amounted to much. Like their underlying numbers and their performance didn't look that great. I do think that's a similar situation here with Aston Villa, where yes, they have those 4 straight wins, right? They're still setting up in that 4-4-2, 4-2-2-2 kind of situation, but they're still not getting a ton of possession. Only 55% against Burnley and 48% against Fulham. So it still seems like they're comfortable and okay with giving the ball away a little bit more and wanting to counter, which in years past they have been very good at, but I don't think they've been as clinical this year, which is probably part of the reason, or possibly part of the reason why they haven't performed as well. 2 goals off to that 1.1 XG against Burnley, 2 great goals from Daniel Malen. So we'll look at that one in a second. But then Burnley in that match, they get they only had 0.4 XG. They get a goal back late, though, off a set piece. And throughout the whole game, they did look very in the match. And same with Feyenoord. Feyenoord gave up 60% possession against them. But going back and watching the extended highlights of that, like Feyenoord had a good amount of opportunities against them. Ended the game with 19 shots. And Aston Villa ended up with 0.63 XG. They get the 2 goals, but they only take 6 shots all game. So still not a team that looks overly clinical. And I think, to be fair or to be generous, maybe they're still kind of working their way into the season, but that is strange with Unai Emery being the starter because, being the head coach, because he has had so much success with that team. So I don't know why it would take so long for them to gel when they really haven't brought in that many new players. Now, one thing that I missed actually on this that I should point out real quick, along with Daniel Malen, Ollie Watkins not really having the best season. Traditionally he's kind of been their talisman, the one to lead the line, get the most goals for the team. Hasn't had a great season this season. And on the flip side of that, a player who's been kind of shunned from this project the last couple of years, even sent out on loan, is Mb Buendia. But Mb Buendia has actually played a fair amount of minutes this season and had some good goal contributions. So he will, if they do line up in that 4-2-2-2 kind of situation, he'll play one of those attacking midfielders roles, usually on the left. But now if we go back here real quick before we kind of close this thing out, just to show you their second goal against Burnley, this is kind of what I'm talking about of like they're, they take their chances, but they're not the most potent team. So you have, I believe that was Morgan Rogers making a good run right here. But then you have, this is what I wanted to point out right here. We have, wrong one. We have Daniel Malen again getting himself in a good position right there. And the defender is still kind of playing him. But as you can see, the defender starts to drift. And that's when Morgan Rogers plays this ball in through here. And what that ends up being is a great shot opportunity for Daniel Malen. I think this one actually gives you a better look at just how good of an opportunity this is. I mean, this angle for a shot when the defender is playing that far off of you, that angle to shoot right across goal. And I don't know if I have another screenshot. No, I didn't take a screenshot of him actually scoring the goal, but as you could probably imagine, shoots the ball cross goal, somewhere in this area, beats the keeper for the second goal of the game. And that's just a disaster what I'm doing here. So let's go switch back over here. So overall to say with Aston Villa, I kind of think that they are beatable. I think that we will have a majority of the possession. And I do think that we'll start with Xavi in the number 10. I think we'll start with players that are a little bit more attacking. I think we'll look to get at them. Coming off an international break, you don't want to obviously like come out sluggish and look like you're still kind of, picking up your feet after the players being gone. So I do think that we'll look to get after Aston Villa. And as we've seen in the previous games when they haven't performed well, that's something that teams have done well at them is just driving at them and being the aggressor. If it wasn't for some, bad luck, Feyenoord with their 19 shots in their last match in the Europa League might have gotten a win. So I think that's probably what Thomas Frank is going to try to do in this one. And I hope so, at least. I hope that we kind of continue the momentum from the previous couple matches and come out as the aggressor and want to really look to take it to them. So that's it for today's video. We will catch you in a recap video, a post-game reaction video on Sunday. And then we'll have some more videos to come next week. So thanks, guys, for checking this one. Cross our fingers for a win on Sunday. I really have grown to despise Aston Villa over the past couple of years. So this one, there's a lot of emotion and juice in this one for me. So anyways, catch you guys in the next one. See ya.